Life lessons from the crazy Dutch farmer, manure spreader. Lesson number 5. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Al Person. You can contact me at pastor@mascot.church or in the comments below if they're published when the video is available. This is a great lesson from the crazy Dutch farmer. And I say every time, and I mean it, there's bad crazy and there's good crazy. And good crazy is the crazy you use to compliment somebody, and that's certainly the way that I use it today. So, Farmer Harry taught me a great lesson, and it was all around the manure spreader, but this was a lesson by example more than by words. So before I begin, I'd like to just read a slightly related joke that Norm Macdonald told on the last day of the Letterman show, and it kind of sets the stage for this. He retells a Letterman joke, and so here it goes. I'll put my glasses on and read it to you. I was on the street the other day, and I saw a garbage truck, and on the back of the garbage truck there was a small sign that said, "Please do not follow too closely." Another of life's simple pleasures ruined by a meddling bureaucracy. Ladies and gentlemen, remember the old days when Dad would pile the kids in a station wagon and we'd all go and follow a garbage truck. I just love that joke. It kind of is a little bit like this story. If you've never stood downwind from a manure spreader doing its job in the springtime on the field, you really missed out on one of life's great adventures. Well, first of all, what is a manure spreader? I'll put a couple of pictures up here and then I'll explain to you what this machine does. This is a tractor pulling a manure spreader. What is manure? Well, it's the stuff that cows leave behind. Well, and other animals as well. Here's another picture. You can see the manure is being spread with beaters on the field following the tractor that is pulling it. Okay? And here is a look of a tractor with a manure spreader ready to go along the side. This machine is very full. So in the springtime, there's a big pile of this stuff from the cows that have been milked every day all winter long, and the stuff is pumped out, and it's many, many tons of it in the field. Many tons. And what do you do with it? You can't leave it there. It'll just go on. You've got to get it out to the field. Well, how do you do it? Well, you need a machine to do it. Now, there are simple machines behind tractors like harrows and discs, perhaps, that don't require a lot of skill to drive. You have to know how to handle the machine. Cultivators, I talked about earlier on, they don't have any moving parts behind the tractor. Then you've got machines that have some moving parts, like manure spreaders. They're quite complex and they're extremely dangerous. And then you've got machines that have huge numbers of moving parts, like combine harvesters and so on. So a manure spreader has some moving parts. Well, what type of parts does it have? Well, first of all, it's got to have some way to spray this stuff out, so it has some beaters behind it. But it has to have more than that. It has to have a mechanism that moves all this manure, all these droppings, into the beater so they keep spraying. And I'll pop that up on the screen here as well. You can see these slats along the way here and the chain along the side. What's going on? Well, the chain is pulled by the machine under the mechanism under the manure spreader, and it comes forward, and then all the manure is in the beater and it sprays out. Okay, there you go. And this is the several days it takes to spray this on your fields, and the farmer takes his tractor and he does the job. Well, Harry found out that his particular manure spreader, which is made by New Holland, there was a later model of manure spreader out that had a lot more capacity. Now, I've just gone and had a look at some capacity here. Some of these have up to, let me see, a maximum load in kilograms of 20,000 kilograms, huge amounts of capacity. But then you've got on the other side, you've got 8,500 kilos or whatever, and they're done either in kilos or bushels. So there's a broad range of capacity of these machines. Well, Harry saw that he could get an upgraded version of his manure spreader, but he said, no, I'll just upgrade mine. Okay, it sounded like a good idea. So he bought an extra set of beaters, and the beaters, so you have one lower set and then you have one on top, and he set the chain mechanism up and they look great. You turn them on and the beaters spin. It's like, yeah, man, when this manure comes, it's going to spread everywhere. Well, we had to do more than that. He also got some very big pieces of timber and put it all around the box of the machine so that the machine could hold more manure. Okay, that's fine. So I've got the machine holding manure, got the beaters, I'm ready to go. And so he built it. The machine looked great, really, really looked good. It looked like it could do the job. And so it's time. So he gets out and he fills the spreader and he's off in the field. Now, I don't remember how many trips he'd done. I think it was the second trip, but I could be wrong. Here's what happened. He's out in the field, I'm doing something else, and I notice that the tractor's coming back, but too early. He's coming back early, and Harry's driving it back. And I also noticed two other things. I noticed the chain hanging below the manure spreader. That's not good. And I noticed some manure still in the tractor. I thought, that's worse. And what had happened was that, yes, we upgraded the beaters in order to spread this manure on the field when it got, and we upgraded the capacity. But what we did not upgrade was the chain mechanism underneath that moves this load forward. And the chain mechanism could break in normal times anyways, but now we have maybe 50% more weight on it, and this was really sloppy. This was really heavy, wet manure, right? So it's the cows had done it, but it mixed with hay. It's been sitting there for a while, and it's like, whoa! And so he's filled the machine up. It's just slopping over, and he's out in the field, and he's going for a while. Now, what happens? Well, you might have recalled in the cultivator talk I gave, you don't spend too much time looking back. You spend your time looking forward. When you're using a machine like a manure spreader, though, you have to continually check on the machine. So the driver knows what he's doing, and he's checking. And there's a particular sound that Harry heard while he was driving. He's going, it's all working, then he hears this clunk. Uh-oh. And the sprayer stop. Turn off the machine, turn off the power takeoff unit, have a look. What's that clunk? The chain underneath has broken, right? The mechanism has kept on rolling it forward. This mechanism is brutally strong. But the chain has got more manure on it than it's meant to hold, and it stresses and it breaks. So Harry's now coming back to the farm, to the barn, and he turns the machine around, and I knew what had happened. The manure spreader had broken. The chain was busted. Here's the question. How do you get to the chain? Well, you can't tip the manure spreader over and just slop it out. You can't pour it out, it's too hard. You have only really one choice. You're going to have to go in and fork that stuff out manually, and hopefully you can get to the broken chain. And I thought, I'm going to be on this all day, right? But no, it wasn't me who did it. Without saying very much, without being angry, which I thought maybe he's going to blow a fuse on this one, without screaming or shouting, Harry parks the tractor, goes off into the workshop, comes back, grabs a fork, it's got 3 long forks on it, climbs up, and starts forking. And he forked without saying very much for maybe an hour, I don't know, an hour and a half, and probably a few tons of the stuff came out, just in a big pile, which he'd have to put back in later on, until he'd exposed the portion of the chain that had broken. And then what you need to do is you need to get a winch. Usually it's a chain winch, not a rope winch. Wouldn't be strong enough to get too dirty, but a chain winch. And you join the chain together, and you pull it together, you grind out the rivets, you re-secure them, and you're off again. So you fix where the break was. We've had to do it a couple of times, but this was like the worst because there was so much manure there. So Harry dug it all out, and then he called for me. Now, there's 2 problems. There's 2 places to work. You've got to work on top of the machine to pull the chain together, then get in with the tools. But the chain has also come loose underneath the machine. Underneath the machine, right? And somebody has got to climb under the manure spreader and lie on their back and guide the chain back up. And let me tell you about manure spreaders, ladies and gentlemen, especially when it's wet. They're very leaky. They're just very leaky. They just leak. So here I am, and I thought, all right, so you forked it out, Harry. Who's going to have to go? I knew straight away this is going to be me. So get underneath. So anyways, here I am, underneath, calling out to Harry, yeah, the chain's ready, pull it. And while he winches the chain together, then the machine takes it up, and then he works. So I was completely drenched in this manure. I'm sure it was everywhere. I'm sure it was my nose, my mouth. I just don't know. It's like, ugh. But it's a job that has to be done. Well, you say, well, that's a pretty dirty story, Al. What's it all about? What are the life lessons? There are two, and they're very good life lessons. Life lesson number one. Life lesson number one, take responsibility for your own decisions. How does that play out? Well, when Harry got up there and started forking and wasn't angry about anything or anybody and just bang, 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 I looked at him and the lesson has meant more to me as I've thought about it. He took responsibility for his own decision. He made the decision to make the machine bigger, and he took responsibility and he cleaned it out. He wasn't going to shout at me or get angry with anybody. It just had to be done. That's a very important. Ladies and gentlemen, take responsibility for your own decisions. Lesson number two. I'll keep the language clear. Don't push things too hard or you'll end up in a lot of manure. How do you like that? You need to restrain yourself. Don't push things beyond where they can go, right? The J.B. Phillips Bible translation says of a particular passage, just came to mind now. I'm not a real J.B. Phillips fan, but I love this phrase. A good friend of mine keeps quoting it, that we need to have a sane estimate of our own abilities. Yeah, we need to have a sane estimate. We need to say, this is as far as it goes. You know, it's one thing to say, yes, we're going to save time and save money by upgrading our manure spreader. It's quite another to say, is it really true, though? Is it really worth doing? So, because all that time that we spent fixing it, I don't know, maybe we could have spent more time on the field. Maybe it was going to keep on breaking. Maybe the chain was never strong enough. I don't know. So the story today is about the manure spreader. It's about a time when Harry had to fork out a lot of manure and didn't complain, just did the job. And I had to climb underneath the manure and got rained on by it, and I had to hold that and guide the whole system together. And there are two important lessons. Number one, take responsibility for your own decisions. Number two, don't push things too hard or you're going to end up in a pile of manure. What do you think? What do you think? That is life lesson number 5 from the Crazy Dutch Farmer, the manure spreader. If you like this, like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. And there's another great life lesson coming next week.